Well, hello there. Welcome to the living room of the dollhouse for another reading from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and Joost Elfers for December 1st, the day of mirthful license. And here at the top of the page is a visual representation of the day of mirthful license, if you like. What do we have? Oh, maybe you can guess. Maybe you can't. I don't know what to say. It's a squirrel on a golf ball, or maybe it's a giant golf ball and a regular sized squirrel, or a tiny squirrel and a regular sized golf ball. I was to say, is that an adequate representation of the day of mirthful license? Hey, maybe a little bit, and it seems kind of awkward, funny, I guess, but hey, not altogether all too important. Maybe we'll make some connotations why they chose that here in the future as we get on with the read. But like I said, not altogether all too important. But what is important is it's December 1st, and that means it's someone's birthday today. That's right. So if it's your birthday today, I just want to say happy birthday. But, if this finds you late, as some things often do, not everybody's searching the internet on the day of their birthday to find out about their reading or themselves, if you like. But if that's the case, I just want to say I hope you had a happy birthday. That being said, there's other folks that join in on occasion. I don't know whether they're curious or here to celebrate. I just want to say hello, welcome, and I hope you enjoy yourself. Now, before I dive in with the redirect, something I like to do around these here parts, and that's roll some dice. That's right, I like to live up to the namesake. This is the DykASSt birthday broadcast, so we roll some dice. But I do so a little more importantly for synchronicity's sake. And here I rolled a 6 and a 1 for a 7. Now, what is synchronicity, you're probably wondering? Well, it's just you getting out in the world and letting the universe show you it's with you on your path. Too often in life we go through, we get out in the world, and we got the blinders on. We're real singular focus as we get after our errands or do whatever we're doing out in the world. And so this is to help you kind of take those blinders off. See what the universe might be throwing in your path, but you're just not seeing because you're not open to it. That's right. And so we do that by kind of like getting a mutually agreed upon sign between us and the universe. That's right. Your daily numbers. Now you don't have to go with what I rolled you. The intention is there. Your 1 and your 6 for your 7. But it is advisable. You take your own pair of dice. Maybe roll your own daily number, but also for directional values you may ascribe to certain number sets, and also time limits with which to go in those directions. That said, once you've established all that and you're on your way, maybe you get to the end of one of your first time limits. You're not seeing anything, no numbers to speak of. Well, just stop, compose yourself, give it a little time, look around, and maybe look for something anomalous, something that just strikes out at you. I don't know, maybe you see somebody that just looks out of place as they're walking through the crowd of people. They look different than the rest. You know what? Take a minute, roll your time limits. It gives you a little bit of a time gap in between where they're off to and where you're starting from there. And follow them there. See where they're going. You don't want to come off like a creeper. You're stalking somebody. So that's what that little time gap's for. And then once the end of your time limit is reached again, once again, you stop, compose yourself, see what you see. Maybe you start to see street signs with the numbers in there, or, license plates with the 1 and a 6 or your 7. You never know. Maybe there's a bus. The number a 7 line pulls up to that street corner that you find yourself at the end of your time limit. Well, I know you probably don't ride the bus very often, but get on there, see what you see. You roll the dice once you get on there, and then get off once the time limit's up. Well, maybe you find yourself in a park, and hey, maybe there's a squirrel on a giant golf ball. That would line up. That's right. The day can sometimes take on a theme where you start seeing the same things over and over. Now, this might not mean anything to you. Pure coincidence, perhaps. Hey, perhaps not. The whole idea there is just to know that the universe is with you on your path. So maybe you just start to see, taste, touch, feel a little bit of the magic of just certain things keep popping up. It's there to help reaffirm the idea that the universe is with you, like I said, and I think that's important. And it can feel magical even if it's just little nuanced things and nothing spectacular happens. I think a lot can be drawn from that. That being said, now one of my more captivating improvs there with what can happen on the day of mirthful license, if you like, when you're out there on a synchronicity walk, but hey, you know what? Like I said, sometimes it's all in the subtlety. It says mirthful license, so maybe your day is just always just enlivened with all sorts of stuff. Maybe you just need a little bit of a quiet, subtle break. That's my argument there. So anyway, hey, let's get on with the read. I think you have a good idea for what synchronicity is. Your month is December. Your day is the 1st. Your sign is 8 to 10 degrees Sagittarius of the Sagittarius I period specifically, and your quality and element is mutable fire. All right, December 1st, the day of mirthful license. Those born on December 1st are highly outspoken people. Moreover, they are not afraid to back up their words with actions. However, because they usually accompany their more immodest behavior with a twinkle of the eye and beguiling innocence, they win people over. Unashamedly, they flagrantly deny all the rules of etiquette and behavior at will, particularly when important issues are at stake in their lives. And since one so often knows just how December 1 people feel, they can strike others as superficial. Such is not the case, however. Their personalities can be deep and complex. It is just that their mode of expression, often humor, it says in parentheticals, is a direct conduit carrying their feelings to the surface. And not always fully aware of themselves and what they are doing, they almost seem driven by forces beyond their control. Even they themselves may at times have doubts about their stability, but nonetheless their unusual mental makeup seems to work for them. Giving, generous people, those born on this day want to share what they have with those near and dear to them, and not only financially, but in terms of time and care as well. The problem with this is that December 1 people are often so busy that they have little time to do so. Thus, frustrations may grow, not only in themselves, but in their children and other family members as well. And since they are dynamos of energy, they will strive to do the impossible, however, and give as much as they can in all areas. And December 1 people are flirtatious with the opposite sex. And not all of this is serious, however, since although they enjoy exerting their charm on one and all, they reserve their deep feelings of love for very special people. It is true, however, that they often go through a naughty childhood, stormy adolescence, and an unsettled early adulthood. Being deprived of experiences or being severely punished for flamboyant behavior in early life. Well, it inevitably results in their later patterns of frustration. And compulsive attitudes towards sex are usually indicative of deep-seated insecurities. And December 1 people are free spirits, and although they are capable of working for a company or other organization, they do better if they can exert the full force of their personality in making decisions and moving on when they feel the right time has arrived. Working too many years for the same outfit can take its toll on them, and even seriously damage their spirit. Like animals that have been caged too long, they may lose touch with their natural instincts. Thus, it is extremely important that December 1 people remain free enough to fully express themselves. On the other hand, they must learn that society will not always tolerate their more outrageous behavior, and perhaps they will do well to become a bit more secretive, diplomatic, and not just hang out their laundry for everyone to see. Moreover, if they wish to be taken seriously, they have to pay more mind to their credibility rating. All right, how about that for a birthday breakdown? Pretty interesting, I thought. But you know what? Let's dive into some notes I like to take. I like to provide a little bit of a commentary on what we just read. Maybe make some connections with other things, like the squirrel and the golf ball. I thought I might have cooked something up there with something they mentioned about the caged animals there. You know, you would think the squirrel might have to be trained in order to balance on the oversized golf ball there. So maybe the caged animal is trained to do something that they're not normally meant to do, right? Out there in the real world anyhow. And we would probably take, I don't know, maybe some kind of, oh, it's cool that the squirrel can get on the ball, right? Well, you know what? That's not their true spirit there. They've been trained to do as much. So that might just drive in line a little bit with what they're saying there. Maybe your more true nature is not to balance on the golf ball. I don't know. That's just what I took from it as I was doing the read. In any event, hey, let's dive into the notes here. See what else I had to say. December 1st, the day of mirthful license. All right, you're highly outspoken and not afraid to back up your words or your actions. All right, and you usually accompany what would be otherwise aggressive behavior with a trademark personality or a beguiling innocence, like they said. And you use that to win people over, which I would say, yeah, that would do it. That mirthful license. It gets in there. It gets people to release a little bit of tension, gravitate closer in, right? You also flagrantly deny the rules, it says, at least of etiquette there. And you do so at will. And for another eloquent description there. But you do that when important issues are at stake, too. The likes of which I almost wish there were examples of as much in the book. But you know what? You probably know about as much in your own life if any of this rings true. But that also said, people know exactly how you feel for superficial effect, the reading claimed. But it also said that isn't at all the case. You can be deep and complex individuals, not just surface level, all right? There's more underneath the skin. What else we got here? You're just more apt to wear your heart on your sleeve, it sounds like to me, all right? But through humor, it's more likely done so in a way that captures being enduring without coming off overly emotional. So the superficial thing is, again, it's just like a book by its cover kind of effect there. Even if, in fact, you might not be very stable in that realm, it sounded like, too. But whatever the case may be, the reading says that it works for you, okay? Which I would argue is a true hallmark of being able to employ humor, all right? Like I said, it breaks down those barriers, even though I didn't say it like that. But the reading goes on to say that you're also generous individuals with your time, your care, your finances, but you may have little time to do so, maybe even little energy to do so. Even if you're energy dynamos, like it said, who strive to do the impossible. You know what? Sometimes you just can't, right? There's only so much time in the day, so much energy in your body, right? But that said, you exert charm to the extent of being flirtatious with the opposite sex, and you often go through what the reading calls stormy childhoods, perhaps due to how you were exploring the use of your gifts, to the frustration and insecurity of your caretakers. And you know what? In which you may have derived those from your own frustrations and, insecurities and like of other folks, because you kind of take that on from the people who don't seem pleased by what you're doing. I'm sure you know the tried and true tale, the psychology of the parents and all that stuff. And so maybe there's some little bit of a deep-seated or seated, seat versus seed. I don't know what the difference is there, but maybe that's in there somewhere, even if just the tiniest little kernel, right? But the reading also claims you're free spirits who do better when exerting the full force of your personality, lest you chance serious damage to your spirit. And you know what? I kind of get that, all right? You can't get out there and flourish, then you feel like you're being caged like that animal, right? That animal forced to do the tricks, even though it's kind of opposite there. You're out there trying to do the tricks, ostensibly. Who's to say which your mirthful license takes the shape of? But that being said, it was a rather well-rounded birthday breakdown, I would say, despite what I think is kind of a narrow and specific focus. That said, they also did a little bit of well-rounding despite that, to say they dove into that little bit of a micro-examination of the childhood. They don't often do that, even on these really narrowly focused days. Oh, I'm sorry. Even on the days that are really well-rounded, they don't necessarily dive into the childhood. So I like that they put that in there, even though it was a hyper-focused day. But we'll get into that with your not your daily numbers, your numbers and your planets. So here I am getting all disjointed here. Get a little bit too much mirthful energy in there, if you like. All right, let's move on to your numbers and your planets. Those born on the first of the month are ruled by the number 1 and the sun. And those born on the first like to be first, and they are typically individual, highly opinionated, and eager to rise to the top. And the sun symbolizes strong creative energy and fire, all right, which should be kept flowing steadily rather than allowed to sporadically flare out of control. And when the sun influences are coupled with those of Jupiter, which is the ruler of Sagittarius, they indicate a lavish lifestyle accompanied by exaltation and self-assurance. All right, this is a rather sparse numbers and planets entry. That being said, let's see what I had to say about it here in the notes. Last page, I filled the notebooks. You get the very end of it. I don't often fill notebooks. How about you? All right, quite the accomplishment there in my mind. All right, so the number one in the sun for strong creative energy and fire, which should flow steadily and not flare out. Now, sun-ruled days are often realized with a hyper-focus, kind of like I said there. They focus on one element, and then the breakdown just elaborates on how that permeates through everything. And they relate how steadfast it permeates through everything, like I said, or at least the rest of your life. And they don't leave a lot of time or examination for other things that other folks tend to get examined. And I'd argue that that is the case here, but they thread a really fine needle by examining those other facts I mentioned, like your childhood. That also said, Jupiter is almost like a second sun in its rulership. Try to come out on top. It's expansive, magnanimous, and then with a drive to be on top as well, like I said. And this rulership is said to hyper-bolster the sun traits said to be imparted, regardless the lavish lifestyle, exaltation, and the self-assuredness that the reading claims. Now, interestingly, I don't really know where they got those characteristics that they mentioned, the lavish lifestyle and the exaltation and self-assurance. Kind of drill down on the planets in the back of the book, kind of what those qualities impart. They don't really say anything like that, so I have a little bit of a question as to where they get those ideas. But maybe they just compared that to folks who were born on this day, and they took kind of like some common denominator qualities kind of thing, like what relates to most of them. Maybe that's something like that. But we'll get on to that later. By and large, that's been your numbers and your planets. I just want to relate that sun rulership focus. Some of these days, they just hyper drill down on one particular area. And for you, they did that a little bit with the humor and such, but I thought they broke it up a little bit more. They expanded out, even though it was hyper focused. So, in any event, I think you got the idea. Let's move on to your tarot. That's right, your tarot card. One of the more eclectic of the New Age metaphysical ideologies. But hey, we don't have to take it home with us and start dealing out the cards to inspire our every whim and flight of fancy. We can just leave it here in the book. So let's get into it. It's fun to expand our horizons, see what they have to say. The first card of the major arcana is the Magician, who symbolizes intellect, communication, information, as well as magic. And over his head is an infinity symbol, which in some tarot decks takes the form of a hat, and in others, a halo. And many interpretations may be drawn, one of which is that the Magician recognizes the cyclical and unending nature of life, and is empowered by this understanding. The positive traits suggested by this card include diplomatic skill and shrewdness, but negatively, a lack of scruples and opportunism. The choice rests with the December 1 people, whether to use their energy to attain wealth, fame, and recognition, or to develop their talents in a deep personal as well as spiritual manner. All right. Hey, they personalize this one for you a little bit, drilling down on those qualities of the Jupiter I mentioned, interestingly. All right, let's see what I'd say in the notes. The Magician for your intellect, communication, as well as magic, all right? And I would argue that's exactly what the humor is there. I think I'm getting ahead of myself here. Traits, I'd argue, that speak to you in lump sum, if the breakdown is anywhere near accurate. Humor of your behavior being the medium through which you communicate your intellect, I would argue, all right? The process which some might just call magic, okay? At least I would argue it's magic. Positive traits, diplomatic skill and shrewdness, or clever awareness and resourcefulness, and an artful cunning in practical matters. I had to look up shrewdness because it sounds negative, but totally positive by that description. But you got those negative qualities of opportunism and a lack of scruples, all right? Or seeking immediate advantage without regard for the consequence, okay? So stay measured if that's the case, I would argue, and lean into your magic and your positives, okay? You want to get artful and cunning with practical matters, I would say. Be shrewd about it. That's right. Okay, that's what I'd say about your tarot. Oftentimes they don't personalize the tarot at all, but they did put a little bit of a twist on there for you. So take that to the bank if you can. That being said, it's been your tarot, and let's move on to your health. That's right, your health. Okay, December 1, people must be careful not to burn out following exhausting expenditures of energy. That's right, it said you were a dynamo. Sooner or later, it will happen unless they take some time off to rest. Whether manifested in a nervous breakdown, problems with headaches, backaches, hormonal complaints, or any variety of symptoms, it is the body's way of saying no to constant neglect or overuse. Women born on this day often have problems with weight gain, evidenced in the hips and thighs, it says in parentheticals. And while their male counterparts often become drawn or even gaunt. In either case, a balanced, healthy diet is the key. And the trick for them is to find foods that are both delicious and healthy. And as far as exercise is concerned, moderate, strenuous routines on a regular basis are recommended. And regular sex is important for their psychological and physical health as well. All right, there we go with the health. What I had to say here. Careful you don't burn out. All right, I think we drilled down on that earlier, but if we didn't, hey, once again, don't burn out, all right? Be measured in your energy expenditure, even if you're that so-called dynamo, right? Many problems said to manifest for you from as much, interestingly. But you know what? Seems kind of common sense, too. But you know what? Sometimes some people might not be open to it. Sometimes they got to hear it. Maybe there's that disconnect and they can't figure out why. I'm always a dynamo. Why am I burning out? Hey, you know what? You're spending too much of it. You're going too hot too fast there. Or for too long, perhaps, too. So maybe it's some of that Sun-Jupiter dynamic there. Finally catching up with you, if you like. That said, dynamics of weight gain with women and drawn or gauntness issues with men, which is an interesting first. I don't think they've ever related that dynamic in the health before. And I like their choice of the word drawn too. I don't think I've ever heard that to speak of somebody who's the gaunt type. But no specific mention of diet other than balanced and healthy. And sometimes they really hyper drill down on that to say like no fruits, no nuts, no grains, whatever. How they figure that out, I'm not quite sure, especially when it's dictated by the stars, supposedly. But who's to say? They go in to say moderate to strenuous exercise is recommended. And again, they get pretty specific about what kind of regimen you should be on with that regard too. So maybe take note. Strenuous to moderate. They also say regular sex is good for your psyche, and surprisingly, that recommendation is a bit of a through line for this period. So, you know, again, maybe take note. Just don't flare out of control, though, right? That's right. Moderation, balanced is the key. Measured, if you like. All right, that's been your health, so let's move on to some advice. All right, your advice. Keep a handle on your energy, all right? You can only be free if you understand yourself and beware of turning others off with an overly direct approach, okay? And learn to be diplomatic and a bit cautious. Ooh. And don't give everything away. I like that one. All right, hey, what I have to say about your advice. I had to write it in the book itself because I ran out of space in the notebook. All right, keep a handle on your energy. Don't flare out. They've drilled down on it, all right? You can only be free if you understand yourself. That's a good one. I like it. Self-knowledge, all right? Mindfulness. It's a practice. We're always evolving too, right? So we got to constantly adjust those things, understand new and different things about ourselves as we evolve. Sometimes daily it happens. Let's see here. And then you might reap those existential benefits too if you get yourself figured out. And also when you know how you do certain things, you can adjust better to it, I would say. Work out your damage or your insecurities too. That's right. So that you can embrace them to your benefit, perhaps. That's right. Use your insecurities for like a comedy bit kind of thing. That's how the comedians deal with their damage. They display it for everybody, make a joke out of it. You don't necessarily have to do that, but you find some other way of using your insecurities to your benefit. Use them like a strength there. What else we got here? Beware turning others off with your approach. That's a good one, I say. Read the room. You have the capability for diplomacy, it said, and everybody's different. You never know how people are going to react to certain things. So, gauge things, see how people are reacting. And you know what? Sometimes people, they're not, they're throwing up a facade. They may be acting like they like what you're saying, but deep down they don't. You come to find out later, like they didn't like you at all, and even the whole time they were laughing at all your jokes. Yeah, so you know what? Some people throw up an artifice themselves. So I'll be wary. I guess that's all I'm saying here. Because how are you supposed to combat that? I don't know. Maybe you can find some telltale signs from past history. It sounds like you might have a little bit of experience with that if you're always bringing the energy of the room up. So who's to say? Diplomatic and cautious, it said. All right. Understand that. I think I totally drilled down on this, and I go line by line. So I thought it was pretty interesting that I kind of guessed it. You got to be diplomatic there, and I really like when that comes together, and I kind of guess what they're going to say. What else we got here? Don't give everything away. Huge advice, and it's applicable everywhere. Okay, jokes, conversations, your life. Your energy, don't give it all away. Let there be a little bit of a mystery there. And you want to stay measured, like we've said, maybe the through line. Find a balance. That was advice for like every Scorpio. Find a balance. For them, it was probably much more needed. But you know what I would say here? You want to make sure you don't flare out of control. So balance is key. All right, that's it. That's been your advice. Let's take the energy down just a hair and move on to your meditation. All right, your meditation. Let me get the book in front of me here so we can really focus on it here. Here we go. The simplest things in life are usually the most important. All right, I like that. Not quite sure how it relates to you, but here nor there. This is your meditation. Here we go again. The simplest things in life are usually the most important. All right. Hey, I'm not going to throw some spin on it, or some spin rather. Probably sounded like I said spit, as often the case. Some spin on it. It's your birthday, your meditation. I don't want to interpret it for you one way or another and affect it for you. That's just for you to consider. That being said, your meditation in the can, as it were. Let's move on to your strengths and your weaknesses. That's right. Let's do some of the work here. Hold up that objective mirror on ourselves. Maybe we can learn something. It's good to hear these things sometimes, all right? Your strengths, you're vibrant, you're extroverted, and you're energetic. All right, I think we knew a couple of those at least. The extroverted one, that was one we might have had to come to through our own, assumptions or whatever. I like vibrant too. That's a good one. But your weaknesses, let's hold up that objective mirror on the other side, the side that blows up your face and shows off all the blemishes. That's right. And we can't improve upon those things unless we can see them. That's right. So your weaknesses, you're frazzled. I think that's a first. Frazzled, misdirected, and unaware. Interesting. I think those are all new. I don't think we've come across those before. So your strengths was again vibrant, extroverted, and energetic, and your weaknesses, frazzled, misdirected, and unaware. Hey, you know what? I think those are all things that can be improved upon, all right? Maybe even with your strengths. All right, you know what? I'd say maybe your strengths contribute to your weaknesses a little bit, especially the energetic and extroverted thing. Hey, you know what? Don't give it all away. That's right. All right. Practice that measured balance. That's right. That being said, with your strengths and weaknesses having been related, let's move on to those born on this day. And when we get into those born on this day, something I like to do, not only find out who shares your company, but examine this idea of figuring out our passions. Because too often I get out in the world and meet folks, ask them what they do, and more importantly, if they like it, and they don't. Even if they say they do, surface level there, You can tell they don't. All right. And I think that's it's understandable. A lot of times we get out in the world, out of school, get that first job we can get our hands on so we can make that money, keep ourselves somewhat comfortable. But it's not something we want to do. And then maybe it gets easy. We get used to it. And so we start climbing that corporate ladder, right? Making more money. They keep you in that cage, but you can't be who you wanted to be, right? They're making you get on that giant golf ball and do your squirrel stuff, right? But you know what? It's a fatally flawed system because at the root, it wasn't what you wanted to do. But you know what? Maybe you didn't know what you wanted to do. That's part of the problem too. And that's the thing here. That's what I want to focus on. Figuring out or getting the time to figure out and put in the work to figure out our thing there. That's right. Figure out your passions. I'm all mumble mouth with the ideas there. Having the time to put in the work. So, hey, you know what? Maybe we can take some kind of inspiration from those born on this day to do as much, all right? And then, I don't know, maybe it's hard to take other people's, passions. Maybe it wasn't even their passions. Maybe it's just something they did day to day to get them famous. But maybe we can take some inspiration and stir up the fires of our own, we want to get into what we're doing, right? So this is the perfect opportunity to do so, even if we can't draw inspiration. Hopefully we can just stir up the fires for you to start doing the work, all right? I'm all over the place with this one. Let's just dive into it, shall we? Maybe I'll get on track later here. We start off with Woody Allen, the comedian and film actor and director of Annie Hall and Manhattan. We also have Bette Midler, the singer, film actress, and comedian. Richard Pryor, the comedian and film actor. Mary Martin, a musical comedy actress. You're starting to see a theme here. There's also a singer and original stage Peter Pan. That's right. And we have Lou Rawls, a singer and an entertainer. We also have Lee Trevino, a golf champion, a two-time PGA US British Open winner. We also have Eric Romer, the French film director of Claire's Knee. We also have, and the Marquis of O, and was also a writer and a critic. And then we move on to Treat Williams, film actor, Rex Stout, a mystery writer, Nero Wolfe detective stories, it says. We also have Dame Alicia Markova, British ballerina, though she sounds Russian. All right. We have Cyril Richard, British stage TV actor, and the original stage Captain Hook in Peter Pan. Here we go. Peter Kalikov, the real estate developer and the New York Post publisher. We also have John Paul Densmore, the rock and roll drummer of The Doors. We also have Jaco Pastorius, a jazz fusion bassist, innovator, and died in a brawl, it says, at the age of 35. We have Princess Anna Komnene, a 12th century Constantinople historian. Diana Lennon, singer of the Lennon Sisters. And we also have Violet Verdi, a ballet dancer of the Paris Opera and the Boston Ballet director there. What else do we have here? Wang Chung-hui, Chinese statesman. Carl Schmidt Rottluff, a German expressionist painter and a co-founder of Die Bruck. I'm not quite sure that the German's right. So, you know what? I mispronounced a couple of names there, too. It's not done in malice. It's just hooked on phonics. It doesn't work for me sometimes there with the pronunciation. So let's do some butchering here on my side of things to make up for it. That being said, you know what I found interesting is he had Captain Hook and Peter Pan, and what was it, the boys who were eternally young there, even though they're old. Well, there might be a little something there, huh? Day of mirthful license, if you like. Hey, like I said, it's a big-ass tall order to try and take inspiration from other people's lives. But like I said, I think it's important that we take the time to figure out what our passions are so that we can start driving towards those things, you know. And maybe if you couldn't take inspiration, me saying as much, putting the bug in your ear about it can help stir up those fires. Because if there's anything I can do for you on your birthday, it's help you figure out your passions or help you put the idea in your head so you start working toward taking the first step if you haven't already. And if you do have a passion, maybe it just help you get more fire and fuel into making it financially viable so you can abandon the thing that you don't want to do. Or the thing, you don't want to be the squirrel on the golf ball. unless it's your own choice. That's right. That being said, that's kind of better. I mucked up the copy really bad, probably the worst I've ever done when I was trying to relate the idea. But like I said, hopefully me just talking about as much puts the bug in your ear. And it's interesting to see the lottery we drew, right? So get out there, exercise your comedy, but only, or a mirthful license if you like, but only if that's something you want to do. But be measured about it, like that one guy that died at the age of 35. He burned out of control, it sounds like. Don't let that happen, all right? Measured balance. In any event, that's been those born on this day. And with that being said, that essentially rounds out your birthday read. That's right. Ties it up there if you like. Except to say, your season is fall. Your sign once again is Sagittarius, of the Sagittarius I period specifically. And your quality and elements is mutable fire. Oh, we got the fires burning right now. What does that mean? Well, that's a different video altogether. I'll leave that at the end for you if you're interested. But that being said, this has been the day of mirthful license for December 1st from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and Stelfers. I have an affiliate link for this book down in the description if you're interested in picking up a copy, diving in further. Let me tell you something. This thing's going to make a great coffee table book if you're someone who wants to bring company over, get a conversation started, get the party off to a good start, get that ice broken in a figurative or a literal sense, considering the size of it, especially if you pick up the hard copy there, right? With that being said, not altogether too important. And you know what is interesting? We found a way to relate the visual representational image. That's a hard ask, big sell a lot of times. I think we did so in a lot of interesting and dynamic ways. But again, all that's being said, not entirely important. What is important is it's someone's birthday. And I just want to wish you a happy birthday again. That's right. So happy birthday. All right. But for everybody else who joined us, I hope you enjoyed yourselves, even though I was mucking up the copy. Really, today was a bunch of firsts. Let me tell you, very interesting day. The visual representational image, me mucking up the copy really bad. I enjoyed it though, and I hope you did so as well. And we see you for your birthday reading is what I'm trying to say. So head on over there when your day comes up. See what we see. That being said, before I forget, your daily numbers. Once again, get out there, let the universe show you it's with you on your side. And hopefully, as much as I undersold my example as less than captivating as it was, you're going to see, taste, touch, feel, maybe even smell a lot more of the magic than I put into it for you. And that's my hope for you. If anything, you get out there and it happens for you. And then you see why I even brought it up. That's right. Get out there, expand your horizons, take off the blinders. That's right. Got to do something fun on your birthday. And so, you know what? There's an option. In any event, once again, I just want to say happy birthday and take care of yourselves, all right? Stay measured and balanced. Don't flare out. All right. Take care.